This week on Two Wheels Better, Paul rides a Kawasaki. Wayne enlightens us over lubrication issues, and Diane and Steve discover more about the American dream of Harley Davidson. But first, more British bike nostalgia. Remember the Triumph Meriden works? Let's join Jeff Stone and Hughie Hancox in the Midlands, discovering their industrial heritage.
Hughie, we're here outside the old Triumph NO2 Factory, with the main factory that was just up the road there. What was the NO2 Factory famous for?
This is the place where we used to bring the bikes for America that were going to be knocked down and crated up to be shipped. Basically, it was to free the floor over on the main production site of hundreds of bikes just standing around. Latterly, it's been obtained by young David Holder, the son of the famous Matt Holder, who is
Of Scott Motorcycles fame,
yes,
yeah.
Scott, Vincent and Velocette. And David now has rechristened the place the Velocette Motorcycle Company, although he's called it the Meriden Works. And on its premises now are machines that can manufacture Triumph spare parts. Dealers come in from around the world and they collect spares for Scott, Triumph, Velocette, Vincent, and they're all made to the original spec, out of as far as we can, or as far as David can, from the original materials.
So it's a nice touch then that Triumph still have a home in Meriden, even if it is just parts.
Yes, it is indeed. I'm up here on an average 3 times a week collecting spares.
A well-worn track then?
Yes, it is. On my Tiger 100 I can usually make it in about 5 minutes.
Well, this is the site of the original Triumph factory just outside Meriden in rural Warwickshire, and I'm here with Hughie Hancox. Very nice to see a Bonneville close here, and especially as we're close to Bonneville land, as it were.
Yes.
And I noticed up there's a Daytona drive. So if you're really into Triumphs, Hughie, this is the place to live, isn't it?
Well, I should think the people here are quite fed up with streams of motorcyclists paying homage, but this is near enough the main drive into the old factory site. Roughly where that tub of flowers is.
But by Daytona Drive?
By Daytona Drive, I should think that would be old Pop Wright's time office. And I think, and I heard the other week, that the people here are quite fed up. One chap, in fact, had his rotavator pick something up in one of the gardens, and it didn't do the rotavator any good when he pulled out an old rear wheel that had been buried over the number of years.
Has that gone back to your workshop now?
No, I think it might have gone in the skip. But there are people here. I know one chap that lives across the road that is heavily into Triumphs, and a few weeks ago when we had the Bonneville celebration over at the National Motorcycle Museum, quite a few people gathered on the end of this close, myself included, and a lot of people came down. Some of them are still into old Triumphs.
Yeah, well, nostalgia, I mean, it rules these days, but I suppose it is nice to say that the legend lives on then.
It's a time machine, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, it is. It's a time machine. It'll never die.
No.
Well, this week we're once again at Tommy Robb Motorcycles in Warrington. Now, one thing guaranteed to attract the interest of everybody in the motorcycling world is the label World's Fastest Bike. And when it was introduced in 1990, that was certainly the case for Kawasaki ZZR 1100. Now, often the first thing that people do when they approach a bike, and you'll see this every time you go to a bike rally, is they walk up and they look at the clocks. Now, why everybody looks at the clocks, I don't really know, but they do. Now, the first thing to strike you when you look at the speedo on this machine is that it goes up to an incredible 200 miles per hour. Now, the ZZR, well, it doesn't quite reach 200 miles per hour. But if you can manage to attain the top speed of around 175 miles per hour, then you're not going to be too worried about anything coming past you. Underneath this ballistic-looking fairing, there's a 1052cc inline liquid-cooled 4-cylinder engine with a double overhead cam and 16 valves, and it's capable of producing around 123 brake horsepower. The gearbox is 6-speed, but really the gearbox, well, I think it should be at a 3-speed. It should be fast, very fast, and good morning, Judge. Braking on this machine is absolutely outstanding. To the front, There are twin discs with twin piston calipers, and they really are exceptionally powerful. And to the back there's a single disc and a single piston caliper. The brakes really are up to the job. Although on a machine with the performance that this thing can do, really nothing short of a railway sleeper through the front wheel is going to stop you too quickly. The petrol tank, well, a full tank is 21 litres of fuel, and that'll give you a touring range of over 200 miles. That's if you drive it, well, fairly sensibly. But with a bike like this, the performance that this thing is capable of, well, you can't really drive these too sensibly, can you? Well, try and keep up. I'll do my best. You don't have to drive this machine like a complete nutcase, but it's hard to resist. The worst thing you can do with a ZZR 1100 is start throwing it around like a sports bike, because although it may have the performance to match the Fireblades and Ducatis, it certainly hasn't got the same sharp handling due to its increased weight and a softer suspension. Although if you're pushing it hard enough for the handling to let you down, then you're missing out on the best feature, that being that it's one of the most comfortable sports tourers you're ever likely to sit on. In fact, the numb bum syndrome is virtually non-existent, with the silky smooth 4-cylinder transmitting none of its vibrations through to the seat or the handlebars. Indeed, it's as well to keep an eye on the rev counter if you want some idea of what's going on down below. So if you want to travel a long way with as much excitement as you can handle, then this one's well worth a try. And there's only one other bike on the road that could possibly leave you behind. Now then, where's that Blackbird? Well, we're now back in the showroom with the ZZR 1100. I've lost a few pounds in sweat, and I managed to keep my licence intact, I think. Tommy, this is absolutely incredible. Now, you've ridden works Hondas, works Yamahas, won all sorts of championships and races, and been just about everywhere fast on a bike, but this is serious performance, this, isn't it?
Without a doubt, this has been probably the flagship of the Kawasaki range. It's been a bike that does everything that you want from a sports bike, but you can also add your luggage to it to give it touring bike appeal. And the performance of this is nothing short of absolutely sensational. Right. In fact, it's so sensational that even Hondas have now brought out the Blackbird to do battle with this particular model.
Right, that's right, because really for the last 5 years or so, this has had this has been the top of the tree, hasn't it? There's been nothing to touch it speed-wise.
No, without a doubt. The CBR 1000 Honda was the bike that was near to it, but the ZZR came in and took that all away from Honda, and now they've come back with the other machine, but the ZZR is still a wonderful selling machine. Yeah, a cracking bike, looks great as well. And something that I noticed is you don't have to drive it like a lunatic. All right, the performance is there and the power's there if you want to get excited, but it can be a very sensible bike. It's a bike that you can ride through town easily.
Yeah, but as far as sports touring goes, I mean, I noticed that, I mean, they've actually thought about that. They've got little bungee straps on the seat and everything. I mean, so they sort of, and up on the fairing there, there's a little cubby hole, which is a lockable compartment there. So it's not an out-and-out sports. It's probably the best sports bike performance-wise.
I would say it would be, and I'm not sure that these are for bungee cords. I think they may be for strapping your pillion passenger on. Right,
yeah, well, that would be an idea, yeah. Well, I suppose a big top box and all that, wouldn't it? So what are these with a set of luggage on the back?
Superb.
I mean, the ultimate machine.
A superb sports tourer, there's no doubt about it. The suspension, the road holding, the riding position, although it looks so sporty, it's actually got quite a nice upright riding position, not one that goes for your wrists and gets you behind the shoulder blades. This is Kawasaki's flagship.
Yep. Well, the only thing wrong with this bike is that it's not mine. It actually belongs to Tommy, which is very sad, and he won't let me borrow it again. Well, I'll leave you with the rest of the programme, Two Wheels Better, and I'm going to go and change my pants.
Hello folks. Lubricant. How many times do you go in the local bike shop, look at all the lubricant on the shelves and think, what the flipping heck should I use to lubricate my chain, to stick in the crankcases, two-stroke? Everybody's got different ideas of lubricant, including this one here. Just check this guy out.
Morning.
This is what you call a lubricant, is it?
This is lubrication, man. Very nice.
Yeah. Full bottle I give you there.
Well, I've got another one, yeah.
Oh, good lad. Just ignore him, just for a second. By the way, his bike's being repaired at the moment, so he won't be riding it, you know. Chain lube. 90% of bikes have got a chain, and those who've got a chain should really take a little care over it, because the fact about it is if the chain breaks or wears out, you've got to buy a new one, it won't go anywhere. The bike is stuck. So lubricant, if you do so, you'll get a little extended life out of the chain. it'll cost you less in the long run, so it's worth forking out a little. There's absolutely loads of them. I bet this is only 40% that's available on the market. Well, we've got a bit of a choice simply because there are different types for different uses. For example, if you've got white wheels, say, the last thing you want to do is put a chain lube on that flings off and leaves a black deposit all over your wheels. So, man-made synthetic. In a couple of these babies, they've gone and used clear lubricants. And in doing so, even though everybody says that it's formulated for non-fling, meaning when the chain goes round, it doesn't fly off on your back wheel, they're not lying. They're right if you just use it in idyllic conditions, but we don't use it in idyllic conditions. So the truth is, you do lose a little bit of lube, goes on your back wheel. If at least you've got a clear one, it may not dirty the yellow, blue, green, whatever colour wheels you've got. If you're not so fussed about it and you just want to lubricate your chain, whatever, use any of them. But it's worth considering the ones that are either clear and are synthetically blended, or have got a high content of this stuff, molybdenum disulfide. The advantage with that is it's the ideal metallic lubricator. The only drawback is everybody uses the stuff incorrectly. The ideal way, and now this is an American product, and yet it states something quite surprising: sparingly. Use it sparingly. And the reason for this is, a little and often, you apply this to your chain in abundance, and all that happens is the propellant that brings the chain lube out of the can will weaken it, and as you rotate the wheel and the chain, it flies off and goes all over the wheel, all over your tyre, all over the road. So you've got to use a little and often, and I'll demonstrate as easily as I possibly can on how to do so. Okay, front sprocket, back sprocket, chain. It's not real, it's only a little piece. These sit like this. The perfect place to lubricate your chain with your aerosol is in two places. On the top of this one, that's the top runner of the chain, on the top of it, and then where the chain would live here, on the top of the bottom runner of the chain. And I'll show you where to point your little squirter. So I'll place that there. On most chain lubes, you've got a little pipe that you attach to the nozzle. Direct the squirter here, and this puts lubricant between the side plate and the little O-ring seals on your chain. The lubricant comes out very, very watery and weak. It flows in past the O-ring seal, the lubricant goes inside the rollers and then solidifies, can't get out because the seal's in the way, and lubricates the important area. If you do that on the top of the chain, one side here, and then across on the top of the chain here, that's it. One complete rotation of your chain is enough. That's what I call using it sparingly. Back to using it a little and often. Every couple of 100 miles is the ideal thing. Do it when you finish your journey and when you're putting your bike away for the night, so the following morning the lubricant has dried up and it doesn't fly off when you set off on your next journey. And that's all you get for me in lubricant. Better go and see how this drunken oath is over here now, haven't we? Have you been listening to me? Have you been paying attention to me, you drunken oath?
I've been concentrating a lot. Molybdenum disulfide.
Molybdenum disulfide, you ignorant twit.
Very good. It's very nice. It's very. I must get some.
That's what you get for drinking.
I must get some.
Yes.
Get some. I'm going to drink this first.
Oh, good. Look at that. He's lost his bottle.
Last time we were discussing Harley Davidson, we were talking about the history of Harley Davidson, and it's a tractor. No, it is in fact an old 1929 JD, and it's moved on considerably since then. Just how much?
Well, let's go and have a look at the new model, shall we?
Fantastic. Yes, please, yes, please.
Okay, well, let's start at the baby of the range. We've got the Sportster 883 Hugger, 883 cc's. Lowered suspension and a much lower ride height. There is another model from that, which is the one you've been riding, Diane, which is the standard 883, which has basically the same chassis but with the normal ride height suspension.
I like the Hugger.
Yes, I know you do.
But there wasn't one in when I wanted to try them. Never mind. What's next?
We move on to the 1200 Sport, which is the one of the 1200 family. Again, same Sportster chassis, same 5-speed gearbox, basically the same engine, but it's just got a bigger bore, which brings it out to 1200cc. And this is the Sport version, which has got the adjustable suspension, twin clocks, different seat, adjustable rear suspension. The other 1200 Sport is the Custom, which is basically the same, but a customised version with a 21-inch front wheel instead of a 19-inch front wheel, etc. So if we move on from there to the big twin range, we're moving into the next part of the range, which is the Dyna, which is this one here. And this is actually a Dyna lowrider. The Dyna is now moving up to the 1340cc engine with a 5-speed gearbox and a rubber-mounted engine and gearbox.
So I would think it would have to be.
Well, not necessarily. As I say, we move on and on into the range. You'll find that the Dyna and the touring models are the only two models that are rubber-mounted. The rest of the range is actually still rigidly mounted, like the old bikes.
Hardcore.
Exactly. Very, very similarly built. So as I say, this is rubber-mounted, 3040cc. And there are various versions of this. So there is actually a budget entry model with about 9,500, which is the budget entry big twin model.
Yes, I have a girlfriend in America who has one of these lovely babies. This is the Softail, yeah?
That's right. This is the Softail Custom, which is a member of the Softail family. Now the reason we call it a family is because, as with the Dyna, you have a different chassis. So the Softail has got an old-fashioned looking rigid chassis. When actually the suspension is laid down flat underneath, so that the rear end looks like it's rigid, but it's not. It actually moves. It's got suspension. And here we have the 1340cc engine again with the 5-speed gearbox, but this time it's bolted rigidly to the frame, as is all the Softail family models. And within that family you have the famous Fat Boy with the solid wheels, the Heritage Classic, the Springer, etc. Basically different versions on a theme.
Okay. And finally, if there is a finally?
And finally we'll move over here to the touring models.
Where a woman should be, pillion, not in your life. What are we on now?
We're on the top of the range, which is the Ultra Injection, which is the top of the range touring model. On this you've got CB radio, you've got stereo, 4 speakers, really comfortable seats, full fairing on the front, air suspension, luggage capacity coming out of your ears, literally, and you can just keep adding to this as well. I mean,
so where's the jacuzzi?
Yes, exactly. Well, if you wanted to fit one, there is space in the back.
I bet I bet they've done it as well.
I bet there is someone who's done it. I guarantee it.
Sad, isn't it?
Anyway, the other members of the touring family, you have the Road King, which is basically a stripped-down version of this. There's the FLHT, which is basically a budget version with the fairing, and the Classic, which has the radio but not quite the same high spec as the Ultra.
Yeah, it looks big enough for my suitcase. I'll have you know I do travel very lightly. You know, jeans, t-shirt, that's all I need. Toothbrush, credit card, the list goes on. Anyway, where are we going to go?
Well, how about a nice cruise down to the Florida Keys on a nice poker run?
Yes!
Steve Parker visited the home of the Harley to join a Californian bike run and to talk to owners about their precious two-wheeled companions.
Give me a call, sure, because I've got to test that bike, so I'll be in and out. All right, bro.
And Andy, when people think of Harley Davidson, some of them still have the image of an outlaw. And that image has changed in the past 10 or 15 years. And I understand in your life you've sort of gone through the same image change with Harley all the way.
Right. I rode my first two-wheel vehicle when I was 10 years old. It was a Cushman scooter. And then I was on a dry spell until I got back from Vietnam. When I got back from Vietnam, I was, to say it mildly, a little crazy. So the first thing I did is I started riding with a club of questionable character and got in a lot of trouble. and that's when I started my Harley days, and I've been on them ever since 1966. And they've come from the outlaw image. I had a lot of problems when I was younger with drugs and alcohol. That's how I gotten all my problems. I'm cleaned up now, and what I do today is I just ride. And I love the Harley. I love the sound of it. It's American. I'm an American white boy, which we're a dying breed. And I just love my country. I spent 2 6-month tours in Vietnam, and I would go again if I had to defend my country. This is the only country in the world where a homeless war veteran can sleep in a cardboard box and a draft dodger sleep in the White House. I'm very opinionated too. And but the Harley is the only motorcycle there is. I'm an American. It's the only motorcycle made in America, and it's just synonymous with America.
Well, let's talk about the bike for a moment, because some people may feel that if somebody gets involved with motorcycles, especially with Harley Davidson, there was certainly the feeling in this country in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s that the motorcycle, in a way, represented a bad form of living, or a negative form of life, and that you said that you were into drugs and alcohol. A lot of people would have added motorcycles to that mix, but you're saying that motorcycles are totally separate from the drug and alcohol lifestyle.
I was involved with drugs and alcohol way before I ever started riding. I started drinking when I was 3, so I was involved with it way before I ever. And like I said, I was 22 years old when I really got started with motorcycles. But I just got back from Vietnam, and I was into everything, to all the alcohol and drugs, and it was just a way of life for me. And when I got back, besides being a little crazy, they had them movies like. Peter Fonda was in Easy Rider and Billy Jack movies, and he was my idol, and so I just wanted to be like that. So I started going to the gym. I was a little skinny dude when I got back. I started going to the gym, building up, and got me some Harleys, and that's what I started to do. And for the next 10 years, I was an animal on a motorcycle, is what I was. And then when I was 32 years old, I cleaned up, and for the last 20 years, I have been riding Harleys without alcohol and drugs, and without associating with those people. I run around with some people that are just genuinely good people.
Well, that's all for this week, but there'll be more of the good things on biking next week, so be with us then. Goodbye.